Welcome! In this video, we're going to take you through a series of preparatory exercises that we recommend that you do before starting to use your toe spacers. These can be performed both before and also after using your toe spacers, which will greatly improve the ability to use your toe spacers for longer periods of time with less discomfort. The first exercise we're going to start with is the toe splay exercise using our fingers. We're going to try and get our fingers, or as many as we can, between as many toes as possible. If you find this to be too difficult to start with, we can just use the tips of our fingers to get in as deep as we can, or using 2 to 3 fingers only to start with. And then progressively, we want to try and get all our fingers between the toes and get the thickest part of our fingers between there to increase the splay that this gives our toes. From here, I'm going to hold my foot with my other hand, and I'm going to start to gently rotate my toes in a circle, either clockwise or anti-clockwise. Doesn't really matter, but we generally want to start to apply slightly greater pressure or force and slightly increased or bigger circles. What this does is improve the ability of our toes to splay, improving blood circulation as well, which means that our toes and our foot will be more prepared for the use of the toe spacers. We want to do this for about 15 to 30 seconds, 1 to 2 times per foot. After that exercise, we'll quickly move on to toe mobility in the different directions that particularly the toes work in when we are pushing off or when we are raising our heel off the ground during the gait cycle. Particularly of importance is the one where we're bending the big toe, as I'm doing here, towards the top of the foot, because this is the position the big toe gets into each time we get the heel off the floor. And then we're going to press the other lesser toes in an opposite direction to increase the flexibility of the extensor muscles so our toes can be straight and rigid during the push-off phase. Common with people with hammer toes or very weak toes is that they tend to curl up because the extensors are a lot tenser and stronger than the flexors. So getting into this deep stretch position, or as deep as you can, using our fingers, then we're going to push our toes against our fingers. So right now, as you see, I'm pushing that big toe against my fingers here, holding that contraction there for about 5 seconds, relaxing, and then trying to push that big toe further and closer towards the top of my foot. You'll notice that after that 5-second period of contraction, you should be able to get deeper into that stretch. We can repeat this for the lesser toes. So now, again, I'm pushing those lesser toes just gently towards my fingers, counting about 5 seconds in my head, relaxing, and then bending them closer towards the bottom of my foot. We can repeat that contract, relax cycle 2 to 3 times for each foot. And then we're going to bend the toes in the opposite direction, stretching the flexor muscles of the lesser toes and the extensor muscle of the big toe. Again, getting into the end range. Then we're going to push the toe against the fingers, hold that contraction, 5 seconds, relax, and get in a deeper range. Now we want to repeat this 1 to 2 times. Again, 2 to 3 cycles of that contract, relax. And then from here, what we want to do is bend all the toes towards the top of the foot so we stretch the plantar fascia and the tissues along the bottom of the foot. And using our thumb on our other hand, we're going to massage the bottom of the foot, stopping and pushing at tender areas for about 15 seconds with gradually increased pressure. This will reduce the tension from your foot and also make it, regardless if you're using toe spacers or not, more comfortable to walk around, particularly if you're suffering from any pain or soreness in your feet. This is useful as well after a long day spending time on your feet, particularly with the toe spacers, because they will activate your muscles a lot more as opposed to not using toe spacers. So I'm just going to massage in tender spots, holding each point for about 15 seconds should be enough, and repeat this for the other foot. Finally, what we want to do is massage in between the long metatarsal bones here. We have muscles here called the interosseous muscles, which actually help splay and flex the toes. So if we don't have enough mobility here, and after many years of maybe using rigid or tight shoes, these muscles tend to get disused and weak, but we also may have some tenderness and stiffness here as well. So massaging these using the tips of my thumb, getting as deep in between as I can, and again, finding tender sore spots, holding them there for about 15 seconds to release that tension. And what this will do is improve the ability of your toes to splay, but also to contract, which again enhances the benefits that we gain from using the toe spacers and also reduces the amount of discomfort that we may experience when using them for prolonged periods of time. Now, when we're using the toe spacers, it's important to realize that certain sensations like discomfort and pain may be normal during this process. So it's to make sure that we're not discouraged or afraid if we start to experience pain anywhere, for example, at the big toe joint, which is common for those who have bunions, or the fifth toe joint, which is common for those who have bunionettes, at the bottom of the foot here, at the metatarsals or the ball of the foot, or at the arch of the foot. These are areas where we typically may experience some discomfort or pain, or even between the toes because of the stretching of the toe spacers that they provide towards the toes. Now we want to use them to a certain point up till where it becomes just about unbearable, and then we have a rest for about an hour or two, or a full day to sense how our feet will feel that day after. If they feel okay, then we can continue using them for that day, and then increase the use progressively through time. Your goal should be, particularly if you have toes that are passively in this crowded position and you can't actively splay them, is to try and use the toe spacers more or less a full day whilst you're weight bearing. So by that we mean when you're standing, when you're walking, when you're doing certain activities like yoga, when you're training at the gym barefoot with your toe spacers on, or even with socks on top, or with toe socks if you need to at your gym. This will make sure that your toes get stronger with the least time investment, meaning that when your toes are placed into the splayed, mechanically advantaged position, they'll be a lot stronger. Your muscles will be a lot more active, not only gaining you better foot function health over time, but giving you direct benefits when you're doing squats, lunges, deadlifts, or any other activities you're doing, such as single leg stance in certain yoga poses, to provide you with the stability necessary to stabilize your posture. Thank you for listening on this video, and I'll see you in the next one.